All right, I'm recording and now I'm going to share the screen. Okay. So last week we did a little bit of a willy-nilly thing, willy-nilly kind of look at what's going on and how to get into aspects. Hold on, let me just get the other two people who are here. And excellent. Okay, great. We're just starting, everybody, so welcome. All right. So what ended up happening was I ended up through the course of the, oh, that's why it's not doing that. That's why I'm using that instead of this. Okay. So I ended up through the course of this, hold on one second. Just a little bit discombobulated because of what happened. Here we go. The webcam is now being used. Perfect. And now we can share the screen. And now I'm happy. All right. So I realized that there were just a few things and ways that I could have made this a little bit more efficient. And so what I want you to do is I want everybody to take a pencil and paper, and I want you to list the planets in the Chaldean order. So we've been talking about the Chaldean order on and off for the past few weeks. It's slowest to fastest. And so just like I have here, you're going to put Saturn, then Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Moon. So start with that. We're going to break this down so that everybody, hopefully by the end of this workshop, everybody should be able to know exactly what they want, what their applying aspects and their separating aspects are. Okay, so that's our goal here. All right, so what I want you to do next, so what I'm going to talk about next while you're doing this, or if you're already finished, is if you remember we've talked about one sign is equal to 30 degrees and 1 degree is equal to 60 minutes. So if you're looking at your chart, you're looking at a glyph of your sign or a glyph or a symbol of your sign, and it will have one number on one side and it will have another number on the other. So on the left side, it'll have a number that will go no higher than 30. Those are the degrees that the planet has just traversed. The other side will go up to as much as 59 because those are the minutes that will make up that are getting us closer to the next degree. Okay, so what I want you to do next is I want you to find the degree and minutes of the sign that those planets are in. So I've just done it here. My Saturn is at 12 degrees and 27 minutes of Pisces. My Jupiter is at 24 degrees and 24 minutes of Gemini. So I want you to do that exact same thing. If there are any questions about how to find the degrees or whatever, let me know. But we've been talking about this for a while, so we should kind of have an idea of how to find them. Change the background because I'm at a cafe. All right. We have a new person. Oh no, I think I do like that better. Well, let's do this one. All right. Hi, new person. Somebody named Jamie just joined, and let me catch you up to what it is we've been doing. So we're talking about aspects, and what I've had everybody do first is I've had them list the planets, only the classical planets in, oh, here comes Sophia as well. So wait, let me just wait until she gets here, and then I can wait and kill two birds with one stone. Hi, Sophia. Okay, so what you're doing first is you're listing the planets from Saturn to the Moon. The Chaldean order is from the slowest planet to the fastest. And so Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. Next, you're finding the degrees and minutes that each of those planets is occupying of the sign they're occupying. So as we mentioned, there will be one number on the left and one number on the right. Okay, number on the left. The number on the left is the degrees. The number on the right is the minutes. So what you're looking for is that. Okay, so I want to make sure when you're finished, write it in the chat for me that you're done listing the degrees and minutes of the signs that your planets are in. So I want to be sure that we're all on the same page before we move. Mariah Meyer, okay. Wow, we've got more people coming in. I think at this point we might be close to 13 or 14 people, which is fantastic. But so we've already started the exercise. This is our workbook exercise day with aspects. And so what we're starting with, Mariah, is we are going from Saturn to the moon. We're first listing the Chaldean order of the planets. Then for each planet, we're listing what degree and minute of the sign each planet is occupying. Yes, you're welcome. All right. Someone else coming in? And when people are finished, they're letting me know in the chat. Okay, thank you. We got 3 people done. Is anybody having a problem? Thank you, Becca. CF, great. All right. All right, pretty close. We're probably about 7 or 8 people are done. Okay. I'm going to go on to the next one because I think we can just go ahead and handle that. What I'm going to have you do next, those who have already finished, is I want you to now rearrange those planets in descending order. So as you see here, my moon is at the highest degree.
You mean numerical? Numerical.
Descending numerical order. Thank you. That's based on the degree, or based on the longitude of the planet, which is the degree of the sign in which it is occupying. So as you can see, now we talked about this last week and the week before, which is that if I say something is at 27 Aries, what I'm really saying is that it's from 26 degrees and 1 minute of Aries to 27 degrees of Aries. That's the 27th degree. Okay, so if I say the 28th degree or the 25th degree, when I say 28, I mean it's from 2701 to 28. When I say 25th, it's from 2401 to 25. So this is just, you don't have to do this. You can just do what I did and write down the numbers in minutes. But I just kind of said, okay, I'm at 27 Aries because I'm at 2641 Aries, you see? So, but only if you understand that should you do that. So otherwise you should just write down what you've got. Thank you. Okay, great, Mariah. All right, because this is how we're going to get to figure out what our aspects are, right? So this is how, so I want you to get a really good idea of where the planets are, what degrees of the signs that they're occupying they are, because this is how we're going to figure out applying and separating. Okay, when you're finished with that, put that in the chat as well so that I know that you're done. Okay, finish with the order. Fantastic. Okay. All right, I think this was kind of like a eureka moment for me. So I think that this will be something that is useful for you. I'll wait for just a few more people to be done with the order. Is anybody not understanding what I'm asking for? I just want to be sure about that because we really need to make sure that everybody is on board to go further, to go forward. Dos de camarones, okay, y dos de pescado. Okay, gracias. ¿Para comer? Sí, agua natural. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm going to just move on a little bit while you're doing that. And if you need me to reiterate something, if you need me to repeat, whatever, you just let me know. All right, so we're going to now go to applying and separating, which we touched on last time, right? And I'm reiterating the Chaldean order, slowest to fastest. Remember that only faster planets can apply to slower planets. So what we have here is faster planet in a lower degree of longitude than the slower planet, and the nature of the applying aspect is like one seeking what they want. Okay, thank you. And you can see the opposite is when the faster planet is in a higher degree of longitude, and it is then the slower planet, then it's like one regretting a matter. So we talked about this last week and how really the implication of this regretting a matter is the backwards looking. It's looking back on it, right? When you regret something, you look back on it with regret. You almost never, you do something and then you regret it. It's almost always something that's in the past. So that's our aspect around applying and separating. So now this is something you should write down. Faster planets apply to slower planets. You should be writing down this entire list here. The moon can apply to all planets, to all of the other 6. Rather, to all 9, right? To all the other 9. Mercury can apply to all except the moon. Venus can apply to all except the moon and Mercury. And then Sun can apply to Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Mars can apply to Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter can apply to Saturn, and Saturn can only apply to the outer planets. Okay, so I've just given you 3 moving parts. I've given you 1 moving part that tells you who can do what to whom. I've given you 1 moving part that tells you where another is in relation to whom. And now I'm going to give you the 3rd moving part. Okay, right? So we know now what degrees our planets are in. We know now who can apply to whom. All right, so I'm just going to go backwards for just a second so that we have this idea, this understanding of this is our slowest to fastest, right? And then this is our descending order numerically. This is going to be really important. So keep the descending order in front of you, and then also keep the list of who can apply to whom in front of you. All right? Okay, so as you can see underneath here, there are 7 aspects. Now, this is pretty much everything I'm doing here is, well, we'll find out, won't we? Sophia, she says she thinks all of her aspects are separated. We'll find out. So the thing that I find really interesting is that basically what you all are doing with me here is going through this book, this Abu Mashar, Introduction to Traditional Astrology book that Benjamin Dykes has translated. And ultimately, I'm trying to I'm teaching you 2 things. I'm teaching you how to obviously kind of enter the chart, but I'm also kind of, in my opinion, teaching you how to orient yourself to looking at astrology, because what we really want is we really want to be taking these things in and then testing them to see if they work. And that's the one thing I don't really see. I see a lot of people taking things in, making very quick pronouncements on very shallow situations. And we don't want to do that. We want the spirit of inquiry, excuse me. We don't want to do that either. But we want the spirit of inquiry to kind of guide us, and curiosity to kind of guide us. And so even though I'm extracting things from this book and saying, okay, let's look at this, should we do it? I'm only saying, let's look at this, should we do it? We're going to figure out whether or not we should or not. So this is something I'm learning along with you, is that there are 7 aspects. There is a right sextile and a left sextile. There is a right square and a left square. There is a right trine and a left trine. There is an opposition. So those are the 7. And then the bodily conjunction would be 8. Okay. And this is one of the important things, obviously, because I underlined it or bolded it. Technically, the conjunction and the opposition are considered positions. They're not considered aspects because they involve bodily union or separation, right? So the conjunction is called the bodily conjunction. And actually, the term is conjugal, right? Which is a term that's similar to a marriage, right? So you think of conjugal, like a conjugal visit that a prisoner has with his wife. So that's where the word conjugal comes from. So that's something to think about for the conjunction. Now, planets and signs regard or look to the signs that are 3, 4, and 5 away. I'm going to do this with every single sign. So don't even start thinking or wondering. Don't get ahead of me. Planets look at signs that are 3, 4, and 5 ahead of it, to the right, to the left, and 11, 10, and 9 behind it to the right. So the signs are ahead are to the left. The signs behind are to the right. That's hard for me to deal with, and I don't 100% know why yet either, so don't ask me, okay? But that's the important thing to be thinking. We're now going to go through it, because what I want you to do is I want you to go up to your list in descending order. And what you're going to do is you're going to do what I've just done. So you're going to do what I did here. And so we're going to actually figure that out right now. So be aware, and as a matter of fact, when I come to a sign, because all I'm going to do is turn the chart, and you know what, had we had enough time, CF, I might have asked you to create something where the chart could have just turned, and we could have.
That.
Yeah, so that will be something we can use in the future.
I could just give you a horoscope that I could turn if you want. You know, a horoscope with the signs in it, so you can just see the signs going in the circle.
Oh, I have one. Oh, you have one. Oh, wait, you have one that's turning already? You get a turning horoscope already?
Yeah. I can give you this. I can give you this, but I can spin it as you speak.
Oh, well, let me see if we need it, and then let me just. I don't know if I want to. Since I'm feeling frazzled anyway, I don't know if I want to deal with it. Actually, go ahead and put it up. You know what? Go ahead and put it up. I will create the share so that everybody can share, so that multiple participants can share. Then I'll put this back up, and then I'll decide whether or not I want to use yours as well. Okay, so when yours is ready, you can put it up.
All right.
Muchas gracias. Okay. Okay, so for Aries, okay, now if you have anything in Aries, this is the case. What we want, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th sign away, that's our left sextile, square, and trine. So the left sextile is Gemini for Aries. Left sextile is Gemini. Left square is Cancer. Left trine is Leo. All right, so as you see that I did in mine, I just listed I put left and those 3, and then right and those 3, and then always the 7th as well. Libra is the opposite of Aries. Okay, so that's how I've done it. That's just how I've done it. You can do it however else you want to. Okay, once again, the left 3, 4, 5 are Gemini, Cancer, and Leo. The right 11, 10, and 9 are Aquarius, Capricorn, and Sagittarius. So Aquarius is his right sextile, Capricorn is his right square, Sagittarius is his right trine. The left trines are ahead, the left aspects are ahead, the right aspects are behind. Okay, I'm going to repeat one more time. To the left, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo for Aries. To the right, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Sagittarius for Aries. And then Libra straight ahead. Okay? Taurus. To the left, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. Left sextile, Cancer. Left square, Leo. Left trine, Virgo. To the right, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn. Right sextile, Pisces. Right square, Aquarius. Right trine, Capricorn. Taurus, that's for Taurus. If you need me to slow down, if you need me to stop and repeat, let me know. Gemini. So to your right is Leo, To your left, see, even I'm still getting this. And this is something I'm going to be exploring and figuring out why it's this way and all of that other stuff. So I know you're like, why is it like that? But this is it. This is how you're going to know. All right. So to our left, Leo, Virgo, and Libra. For Gemini, to our left, sextile Leo, square Virgo, trine Libra. To our right, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius. Right sextile Aries, right square Pisces, right trine Aquarius. Okay? Cancer. Are you getting the gist? We skip a sign, and then the next three signs are for the left. So I'm not going to list out which it is right now. I'm just going to say which three they are. So to our left for Cancer, it's Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio. To our right for Cancer, it's Taurus, Aries, and Pisces. Okay. All right. For Leo, to our left is Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. To our right is Gemini, Taurus, and Aries. Okay. And don't forget the sign opposite is what do they call it? He called it a position. It's the opposition. The opposition and the conjunction are positions. All right. For Virgo, to our left is Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. To our right is Cancer, Gemini, and Taurus. I'm going to just move on. Libra. To our left is Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius. To our right is Leo, Cancer, and Gemini. Scorpio. To our left, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. To our right, Virgo, Leo, Cancer. All right. Leo, Cancer, Virgo, Leo, Cancer. That would be Scorpio. Okay, Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, to our left, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries. To our right, Libra, Virgo, Leo. Okay. Capricorn. To our left, Pisces, Aries, Taurus. To our right, Scorpio, Libra, Virgo. Aquarius. To our left, Aries, Taurus, Gemini. To our right, Sagittarius, Scorpio, Libra. And Pisces, finally, we got it all the way through. To our left, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer. To our right, Capricorn, Sagittarius, and Scorpio. Now, if you have a planet in any of those signs, you now know what signs those planets aspect, right? So we're not talking about conjunction or opposition, right? We're talking about sextile, trine, or sextile, square, or trine, right? Because 3, 4, and 5 are the sextile, the square, and the trine. So what you're going to do now that you know, so I'm going to go back to my sheet. And once again, if you need, does anybody need me to repeat, or anybody have questions or whatever? And look at basically, like I said, what I've done. My moon is at 27 degrees of Aries, which means that my moon aspects Gemini, Cancer, and Leo, the signs of Gemini, Cancer, and Leo, and Aquarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius, and Libra. So if I have any planets in these signs, then I have a potential aspect between them. Now, how do I find out if it's an applying aspect or a separating aspect? The faster planet has to be at a lower degree of longitude. Look at where my moon is here. My moon is at 27 degrees. In order for the moon, who's the fastest planet, which is the other reason I said, make sure you have that list of who can apply to whom, right? So make sure you have that list available as well. So the moon at 27 Aries that means that I would have to have something, another planet at a slower planet at 28 or 29 or 30 degrees of Aries in order for the moon to be able to actually apply to that thing. And that's not what's going on, right? So we know that any aspect that the moon is making to another planet is going to be separating. And sure enough, right underneath that, we have Jupiter at 25 degrees Gemini. Is that one of the signs? Oh, yes, indeed it is. It would be a left sextile. And the moon is at 27 Aries, and Jupiter is at 25 Gemini. That means that there's a separating sextile between the moon and Jupiter. And so that's how you're going to do it. That's how you're going to figure out what is, so take it one at a time. So let's basically take it one at a time via the Chaldean order, okay? So we're going to take it one at a time. Chaldean order starts with Saturn and ends with the moon. That means that Saturn cannot apply to anybody, right? Keep that list in front of you. So we're keeping now we have what, 4 lists to keep in front? We've got the Chaldean order, we've got the numerical order, we've got the who can do what to whom, and then we have exactly to whom is who doing what. All right. So now find your Saturn, find what sign it's in, and find if anybody is applying to him, and then write it in the chat. Remember your signs. So remember the signs that you can connect with, right? So if you're done like me, there we go. Someone said, yes, oppositions. So yes, conjunctions, oppositions, whatever. Yes, oppositions. Yeah, totally. So this is the way to kind of figure that out. Okay, we've got somebody writing in. Mars at 1 degree of Taurus applying to Saturn and Cancer at 20 degrees. That's entirely too far for there to be an aspect, but by sign, Mars and Saturn are aspecting each other. So yes, that Mars is somewhat, we can say Mars is probably applying to somebody before that, or maybe not, because he's pretty slow. But that would be an example. But in this case, there is no aspect because it's too far away. And we're going to talk about orbs. We've got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about orbs, everybody. Someone said Mars is at 0 and Saturn at 8. We're going to talk about orbs. That's not too far from Mars and Saturn. That's not too far from Mars and Saturn. Sun at 22 Taurus applying to Saturn at 29 by square, okay. And Aquarius, and the moon at 20 Aquarius applying by conjunction. Okay, great. Excellent. So this 20 to 29, not bad. I've got some Saturn at 21 Capricorn opposition to Jupiter. Okay, that would not be applying. Why not? Saturn cannot apply to anybody, and in order for a planet to be applying, it has to be faster, and it has to be in a lower degree of the zodiac. Saturn is slower than Jupiter, and Saturn is at a lower degree of the zodiac than Jupiter. Sun at 29 applying to Saturn at 1 Virgo. I don't deal with the out of sign, so I wouldn't. I mean, this is so fucking close that maybe, but generally I don't. So. Set at 10 degrees Cancer applying to Saturn at 20 degrees. A little far, but yes. Okay, so it looks like people are getting the gist of what I'm talking about. Good. Anybody else want to write in? We got more people than have written in, but if you don't want to write in, you don't feel comfortable, whatever, that's fine too. Well, one more person wrote in because I'm going to move on. We're going to move on to Jupiter. So those of you who have already done Saturn, do the same thing with Jupiter. 22 Scorpio, Saturn square Jupiter. Yes, Jupiter is applying. So, hey, Sophia, so that's an example. 16 Aquarius Jupiter applying to a 22 Scorpio Saturn. So the faster planet is at a lower degree than the slower. Okay, good. Okay, so now everybody do your Jupiter. So basically you don't have to write it in, but this is how you're going to find out. This is how you would do it with all of them, right? This is the process you would follow with every single one. And once again, I just want to come back to here and show you, for all of my planetary positions, I know exactly who is doing what. I know exactly to whom it can do what, rather. I know exactly to whom it can do what. Right? And so that's the important thing. And so if there is no one in those signs, then there's nothing going on between planets. Okay? Only separating aspects to Jupiter, someone said. Okay, so maybe that's the case. Now, one of the things that I'm kind of finding is that separating, I mean, I'm from the horror thing where, you know, if it's a separating aspect, fuck it, you're not really interested. But in a natal chart, that really does kind of show up still. I'm trying to figure out if it shows up in a less acute fashion or whatever, but I'm still trying to get my head around what is different and how separating aspects work differently. So that's something I'm interested in looking at. Mercury at 19 Gemini separating from Jupiter at 21 degrees. Nope, Mercury is applying. Mariah, why is Mercury applying to Jupiter? Because for two reasons. One, Mercury is a faster planet than Jupiter, right? So keep that list ahead in front of you. Mercury can apply to every
point.
I will. I'm going to go back. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for. It's been a little bit of a hairy. This is the first time this has happened. I've had like the internet go or the computer go off and then me go somewhere else and it'd be fine. But I've never had me go somewhere else and it'd be fucked up there too. All right. So we're talking about reception, and the first type of reception that we're looking for is mutual reception, which is when two planets exchange signs that are in aspect to each other. So the signs need to be able to aspect each other, because remember, planets and signs both look at these other signs. So the planet regards the sign, so does the sign. And
Antoine, I just wanted to let you know that a few minutes ago before you came home, I discussed this as if I had entered a party and people were looking and glancing off of each other.
Exactly.
So when you're in a room, this is the way that the planets interact. It's almost like a play. You walk in and the TV show is set. You know who's sitting, you know who's sitting, who can see each other and who can't.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so good. So now you know exactly who's zooming who is zooming who. Now you know who is zooming who in the chart. And this is one of the most important things to deal with. So the conditions for mutual reception: planets A and B are exchanging signs. They are in signs that aspect each other, and the planets themselves are aspecting each other. I'm going to actually write that.
So that would be like a moon in Taurus at 3 degrees with a Venus in Cancer at 5 degrees.
That's correct. That's exactly correct.
Because they both apply, the faster is applying, and that's a sextile, and they are in each other's signs. So the moon in Taurus is in Venus's sign, and Venus in Cancer is in the moon's.
That's exactly correct. Okay. So the strongest mutual reception is that one where the moon is at a lower degree. Once again, notice the faster planet is at a lower degree of the zodiac than the slower planet. Moon is the fastest. She's at 3 degrees. Venus is not as fast as she is. She's at 5 degrees. Thus, there is an applying sextile between those two planets. Okay, so the moon is now at 7 degrees of Taurus, and she's separating from the sextile of Venus at 5 degrees. That's the next strongest. Less strong is what I should have written. And then moon at 28 degrees Taurus, Venus at 5 Cancer. So basically, it's just by sign, least strong. Okay, so that's how the mutual reception works. So if you have a mutual reception, so once again, you have to know who rules what signs. right? We have to know who rules what signs.
Well, it's
And so
important to memorize all the rulers.
yes, so we've talked about that. We've talked about the 6 androgynous pairs. We've talked about all this stuff before, and I've got it listed down here as well. So we'll come back to it. Especially, we'll deal with this all as one unit, and then we'll come to the rulerships. Okay, mutual reception we just dealt with. Pushing power is next. So pushing power happens when a planet is applying to another planet who is the domicile or exaltation ruler of the sign planet A is occupying. Okay, so my example was my sun in Capricorn at 10 degrees, applying to my Saturn in Pisces at 12 degrees. Okay. All right. So when a planet is in a sign that is in the, now, so it's just, and it can be, so this is the positive pushing power. The negative pushing power is when a planet is in a sign that is the detriment or fall of another planet, right? So that would be, for instance, if the sun were in Capricorn and applying to Jupiter, right? Because that's the fall of Jupiter. Capricorn is the fall of Jupiter. So it would be, so the opposite is true, right? So if sun is in Capricorn and applying to Saturn, that's pushing power, right? But if sun is in Capricorn and applying to Jupiter, which Capricorn being his fall, then he's not giving Jupiter anything good. So this is something to think about. I see your mouth open. Right? So that's basically, it's not exactly pushing power. It's the negative, the opposite of pushing power. It's pushing negative power. And we looked at that last week. We looked at that last week when we saw those two health charts where the planets were not just aspecting, so the ruler of the 6 was aspecting the ruler of the 1st, but it was also ruling it. It was giving detriment or fall. So it was also giving the detriment or the fall to the planet. So it was ensuring that there would be health problems. All right, so conditions for pushing power. Planet A is faster than planet B. Planet A is in a sign which is the domicile or exaltation of planet B. And planet A is applying to planet B by conjunction or aspect. Now, it can't be opposition, and we'll talk about that in a second. And here's our example.
Yeah, good. I was hoping for examples.
Yeah, here's our example. Mercury is at 12 degrees of Aries, applying to the right sextile of Mars at 14 degrees Aquarius. Okay, so Mercury is applying to his ruler. The planet who rules Aries is Mars. Mercury is applying to him. Right? Same thing if Venus were in Aries and she were applying to Mars in Aquarius, she also would have the pushing power. So the planet who is applying has the pushing power. And what's that power? That power is the power to push both its planet A's own characteristics and the zodiac signs characteristic which belong to the other planet, right? So if Mercury is in Aries, then she's going to push the Aryan aspect of Mars towards him, but he's also going to push his own version of it. So Mars will be able to receive him more. And so that's when we hear things like Mars receives so-and-so from his blah, blah, blah. That's what we're talking about. Mars is going to receive Mercury from his domicile. And so he will allow Mercury a certain amount of leeway in the way that he acts, and he will also get a part of his own nature back, right? Because he'll get Aries. He'll get Aries. He'll get his masculine daytime nature imprinted on him by Mercury, who he will then help to be more Aries. Okay, so that's how pushing power works. The next one, okay, wait, we got some questions.
Yeah. Crystal wants to know if the moon and sun are applying to Jupiter in Cancer. So if the moon and sun are applying to Jupiter in Cancer is what Crystal is asking.
If
And
the
then
moon and the sun are applying to Jupiter in Cancer, what
Yeah, I mean,
if then what?
I don't know exactly. She hasn't finished the statement. Crystal, go ahead and give us a better explanation.
What are they?
And
What signs are they in?
yeah, what sign are the moon and sun in when they apply to Jupiter? All three are in Cancer.
Oh wait, she's talking about the third. No. So that's a different one, which we're about to do right now. That's the
And then
third, which is
now Anna Maria has asked, so would the moon in Aquarius apply by conjunction to Saturn in Aquarius?
it
Would that
still.
be pushing power?
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Yes, it would be pushing power. So look here. What whoever asked about the Jupiter and Cancer thing, they just
That was
talked to us
Crystal.
about pushing nature, which is the next thing I was going to come to.
Mhm.
So pushing nature is when a planet in its own dignity either applies to another planet or is being applied to. A planet in its own dignity will receive most anyone. So the conditions for this are planet A is in domicile, exaltation, or any two of the lesser dignities which we have not talked about. Okay, so we've only really been talking about domicile and exaltation. So just think about those for now. Condition 2 is planet A either applies to planet B or is being applied to by planet B. So I've given two examples here. Jupiter at 7 Sagittarius is applying to Saturn at 9 Aries. Okay, so Jupiter is applying, he's still pushing his nature onto Saturn. Or Mars at 3 Sagittarius applying to Jupiter at 7 Sagittarius. There, Jupiter is being applied to by Mars, and he's still pushing his nature onto Mars. So either way, Jupiter pushes his nature. So when planets are in their own sign, it gives them a certain amount of largesse. And a certain amount of largesse and ability to welcome and ability to share its own significations with the other planets who come into its orbit, right? So if Jupiter then would share a little Jupiterian-ness to Mars, he would make Mars very Jupiterian. He'd make Mars big. He'd make Mars bigger. He'd amplify what Mars is about in a Jupiterian way, right? And the same thing with the Saturn. He'd open up the Saturn in Aries is kind of screwed there because it's in fall. But Jupiter trining would kind of help. It would be kind of a helpful thing. It would be a benefic trine. Okay. Here's our list. Here's our list of the signs and who rules them. So now, keeping these in
I
mind.
put up a graphic with this a few minutes ago.
Oh, you did? Good. Okay. So that means then you all should have an idea who rules what and whether or not any of your planets actually are involved in this, are involved in these receptions. Now you're like, why is he talking about this? The things with receptions, these matter so much. And we saw it last time. Like I said, we saw it last week in those health charts. Yes, the ruler of the sixth was trining in one and was sextiling the other, was trining the ruler of the ascendant, but also in both cases, they were giving detriment and or fall. And so not only was it going to be a sure thing that there was going to be a problem, that there was going to be some kind of contact between illness and the body, but it was going to make sure that it was going to
I don't know how long it still goes.
put the person at a disadvantage.
Anything between
And I
5
think
and 35
that's
minutes.
important to understand. All right. Okay, so are there any questions about that? Do you want to take some time?
Antoine, may I make a suggestion? This was
What's that?
such a heavy-duty lesson with so many really interesting, very good rules. I would like to repeat this very lesson and bring in the charts so that we could see the charts. So let's repeat. Let's repeat on Sunday next this entire thing, except having charts, only charts. What do you think?
You are still here. I knew it. You know what? Let's ask what everybody thinks. Hi, my internet went out at home. Hi, baby. So I'm using like a friend's. I'm using a friend's. No, I'm talking to them. I'm using a friend's apartment. I'm sitting in front of their house.
Hey, how are you? How are you? Say hi.
Hey, awesome.
Oh,
Woohoo.
right. He's so sweet. Ishmael's so sweet. And here's Mia. Can you see her? Wait, there we go.
Oh,
All right, anyway,
Huggy.
sorry about that. But so let me know in the chat if you all want to do that. Is she here? Oh, there she is. Hey.
Yeah, please signal to us whether you would like to have charts as examples
Yeah,
for
my
the
office.
lesson this week.
Come on, please. Come on, please.
Oh,
We'll
office.
repeat this,
Ooh,
but with
cold in here.
charts.
Okay. All right. So they just came home. I was wondering why I didn't hear anything. Okay, so I'm cool. I'm fine out here because I don't want to disturb you guys. Okay, thank you. All right. Sorry, you guys. I promise you, I'm much more professional than this. Most of you have seen me before, so you know I'm usually more reliable.
Yes. Crystal
Yeah.
says yes, but her schedule only allows normal watching after the fact. Today was a fluke, so she's going to watch the recording.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you should be watching the recordings of all the things that we do. I mean, we still have more than 30 minutes, so we're fine. We have time to go through this. But you know, CF makes an interesting, an important point, which is how to identify these things. And last week we looked at Queen Elizabeth's chart, which had the mutual reception. We looked at my chart, which has the pushing power. We looked at Lily's chart, which has the pushing nature. So we have seen that. We do, and we have these resources. We have seen those things. These would be good things to kind of reinforce with. But ultimately, you're not going to be able to recognize them unless you really know who's ruling what. So that's the most important thing. So someone was talking to Amanda, and Amanda was like, well, I don't really understand most of it. Like, if there's anything that you need to take away from this class today, it's this. It's who rules what planets. Which planets rule which signs, rather. Sorry about that. Okay, and the fact that there are 6 androgynous pairs. The moon and the sun are one pair. The moon rules only a feminine sign, and the sun rules only a masculine sign. Then Mercury, his daytime sign is Gemini, his feminine nighttime sign is Virgo. And all the planets, except for the sun and moon, have a masculine daytime expression and a feminine nighttime expression. Get to know those, and from there you'll be able to do a lot of the other things that we're talking about. I like the proposal of doing this again. I was going to do something different next week, but if we feel like this is obviously something we need to kind of continue to revisit, and let me move to orbs now. So the most important thing, planets have orbs, aspects do not. That's the most important thing. So like when you're thinking about, oh, what kind of orb should I be using? Now, the reason that we say planets have orbs, it's because planets have what I call an orb of influence that they travel within, right? So as it says here, each planet travels within an orb of influence that extends a designated amount of degrees ahead and behind it. So that means that orbs come together, and then orbs absorb. Orbs start to become one orb until the planets either come together bodily, right? Or they come together, or their rays come together as well, okay? All right. So each planet has its own orb of influence, and it's called a moiety. And so these are the orbs of influence of the planets. The sun has 7.5 degrees ahead and 7.5 degrees behind. So why did we put this? It's because in order to know when the actual influence of 2 planets comes together, it's when, let's say we're talking about the sun and Saturn, like I have in my chart. Oh, perfect. Okay. So then that means I would add 7.5 to 4.5, which equals 11.
12. Mhm.
Or is it 12? 12 rather. Okay, 12 degrees is when is when their orbs touch. And you can think of it as maybe, okay, this is Saturn's orb. This is Saturn's orb, and then the sun puts its orb on top. So the sun's orb and Saturn's orb at 12 degrees comes together, and then as the sun moves closer, because remember the sun is faster than Saturn, as the sun moves closer and moves within 7.5 degrees of the sun, of Saturn, it's moved into it's got Saturn within its orb. And then when it moves to 4.5 degrees away from Saturn, it's within Saturn's orb of influence. And after that, it gets closer and closer until it's what we call partile or exact. So partile is the word for an exact aspect. Okay, so a partile aspect is exact. A platic aspect, is platic separating? Isn't it? Isn't platic separating, or is it just not exact?
I don't know that term. I think it might not be exact, but
It's just not
don't.
exact. Yeah, partile is definitely exact. It's platic and partile, so that's what I remember. Okay, so this is something, remember, not everything here is something that you can use right away. Some stuff you can use right away, some stuff you can't, some stuff I'm just introducing, some stuff I'm not introducing. But what I would say for dealing with aspects within 5 degrees, the aspect becomes strong. Now we're talking about applying aspects, right? Within 5 degrees, the aspect becomes strong. I think that's a general, and especially within 3 degrees.
And so we were looking at that in the chart that we had. We had a Venus and a Saturn that were a few degrees apart.
Okay. So very strong. The closer, and so of course that means then the closer that it gets. Oh, thank you. The closer it gets, they're so sweet to me. The closer that it gets, the better, the stronger, not better necessarily, but the stronger and more acute and more functional the actual aspect will be. One of the things Rob Zoller says is that aspects show you how planets work together, not what they do, not what the planets themselves do, but how they work together. And he said something else that I didn't quite agree with. He says that planets affect how they do what they do, but don't affect their actual natures. And I don't think that's true. I think they do affect, I think aspects do affect the natures of the planet, because think of it like this. Oh, Jesus Christ. You've got a Venus that's in Pisces that's trining Jupiter, or you have a Venus that's in Virgo that's squaring Mars. She's going to act very differently. Even if you have a Venus in Pisces that's squaring Mars, she's going to act differently. So that means, in my opinion, that, as I said, I think I put it somewhere here. Did I put it in? It's what I wrote in my last one, which was that it links the natures of the two planets. It links the nature of the two planets, and it links the houses that the planets represent. And that's kind of the magic part of working with aspects. That's why you want to be able to do aspects. Because actually, the modern way of looking at it is just like, oh, how does that tell me more about my personality? But the classical way of looking at it was, which house rulers does that put together, and what does that end up meaning? Right? What does that end up inferring when the ruler of the third and when the ruler of the fourth and the ruler of the 11th are in opposition? What does that infer? That infers the death of the father, because it's the eighth from the father, and those two are in opposition. That infers that the father might die. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. So, but that's another thing we're talking about, rotating the chart and derivative houses and all of that kind of stuff too. But ultimately, we're just starting right now with why aspects are important. And that's why. It's because the aspects really do give you what's the word I'm looking for? It really gives you the plot. It gives you what?
Dynamic.
Well, but it's more specific than the dynamic, right? Because it can, on a personal level, it gives you the dynamic. But we're not specifically looking at it from a personal perspective. We're looking at it from this kind of medieval geocentric perspective, which should be able to tell us what's going on in our life. And so
Right.
That's what I really find it can do, is it can basically say, these two houses are coming together. That means these areas of life are coming together like this, in this nature. Look out. Or, wow, this should be nice. So that's when we really can kind of get into the specifics. So yes, on the personal level, the dynamic. On the geocentric, divinatory level, what the accidents, what's going on. Remember, accident means circumstance.
I think of it as a TV show, like a comedy. Each chart is like a situation comedy with people sitting on the couch. That's the ascendant. If they're going up the stairs, possibly that's the 10th cusp. So it's a visual, and it gives you a play within a play. And I think that's what this particular view allows you to see, is which character is going to go upstairs, which character is heading to the kitchen, which are in conflict with each other.
Exactly. And especially when you get into looking at, why is my love life garbage? Then we are looking at, well, what's going on with Venus, and what's going on with the ruler of the seventh house? What aspects are the ruler of this ruler of the seventh house making? You see, so that's really what's going to tell you and it's all stuff that we've talked about prior. What sign is it in, right? What's the essential dignity? We talked about that when we looked at planetary strength. What house is it in? We looked at that when we talked about planetary strength. And now we're looking at what aspects does it make, right? So what aspects does it make? This is one of the most important descriptors, or ways that we can end up using to describe. What does that person say? For some reason,
Is that quoted text on conjunction from a different source?
Yes, it is.
Crystal.
It's from Robert Zoller. Thank you. This is from Robert Zoller. This is not me. None of this stuff is me. So the conjunction is of the nature, but we did talk about this last week, because notice what I've put here, how I've emphasized the planets. So really think about these aspects in relation to these planets, because the conjunction is of the nature of Mercury. So, one of the things I see all the time is people say, well, I've got these squares and oppositions. What does that mean? Like, I don't understand. I don't get how the aspects work. Well, remember that the Mercury signs are right next to the signs of the lights, right? Virgo is next to Leo. Gemini is next to Cancer. So Mercury is of the nature of the conjunction, a union, cooperation, or suppression. And he makes some interesting points here. Always consider.
Amanda is saying she's been learning about astrology and has looked back on major events in her life and found major transits that were very eye-opening.
Okay. So notice what he says. Obviously, we've talked already about how the sun, when the sun is in conjunction to a planet, it's malefic, and it's called combustion. We talked about the 3 stages of combustion and all of that stuff before, and how the sun husks out and absorbs the nature of the other planet. The effect of the conjunction on the other bodies which are with each other depends on whether the conjoined bodies are superior or inferior. Now, I had never heard about this before, so this is something I'm interested in looking into. So inferior planets are faster planets. So from the moon to the sun. And the superior planets are from Mars to Jupiter, Mars to Saturn, rather. So that means that if Venus and Mars are in conjunction, Mars can dominate the Venus because he's slower than she is. That's what he's basically saying. Superiors dominate inferiors. So 2, we must observe the sign in which the conjunction takes place, because the planet with the greater dignity, right? And we've talked about essential dignity in that sign and degree dominates the other. So that makes plenty of sense, right? Because if, for instance, Lily, who has all that stuff in Cancer, she has both the moon and Jupiter in Cancer in that stellium, right? So those 2 planets dominate. And one of them dominates the moon, and Jupiter is in combustion. So the moon is really dominating. Okay, so that's how he's looking at this. So I just wanted the 3 things that I think are really important about what he's saying is that the conjunction is a union, cooperation, or suppression. Super important. The other thing that he says is we already know about combustion, but that superior or slower planets can dominate inferior planets. Okay, so those are the most important. And then also that planets that are in their essential dignity will dominate planets that are not. Okay, so that's something it's the only one that I kind of took as big a chunk from because I thought so much of it was important. The sextile represents the loving union of 2 bodies so joined. It is of the nature of Venus. Like 2 people seeking friendship together. Okay, so when you're thinking about sextiles, remember what I said about the difference between Mars and Venus was harmony versus discord? So be thinking about this harmonious friendship. By the way, I didn't get to the Saturn opposing the lights. And for Saturn and Moon, I was saying obstruction versus flow. And obviously for Sun and Saturn, it was light versus dark, but that's the most of it. But there was something else we talked about, Lily. I forgot what that was. Okay, but that's the nature of the sextile. The nature of the trine was called the aspect of perfect friendship. It is of the nature of Jupiter. It's funny, I tend to find that people put more of a Venusian feel on top of the trine, when really it's a Jupiterian. The trine is a Jupiterian perfect friendship, right? And think Jupiter is also in his joy in the 11th house, which is the house of friends. So Jupiter is kind of an expression of perfect friendship, of patronage and perfect friendship and help and assistance along the way, all of those things. That's Jupiter. And that's what the trine can do. Okay, the square is confliction, intensification, and excessive. It is of the nature of Mars. So challenge is a word that's often used for the square, right? Challenge and action. Action is a word I use for the square often too, because I always find that it's action that's necessary to relieve the stress that the square creates. So there's a challenge and some stress that the square is kind of creating for us, and we need to do something. I mean, it puts us in a position where we have to do something in order to alleviate that stress. It's putting out fires, right? There's a Mars expression or feeling. So the square is putting out the small fires. But here, it's like 2 who are seeking rulership, each for himself. And so I want to take her metaphor about glances a little bit further, because think about the kind of glance, right? Because all these planets are looking at each other. These aspects are them glancing, them looking, as she said. What kind of glance is a conjunction, right? A conjunction glance is the kind of glance where CF and I have a conversation, and I say, I need you to help me with this, whatever. Right? Mercury is involved, skill, union, cooperation. CF is the person who told me that CO words were Mercury, right? So coordination, cooperation, coexistence, Mercury. Those are all Mercury words. That came from you, Claire France. And,
like twins.
Yeah, like twins, exactly. But be thinking of that, so kind of how twins look at each other. is kind of the way a conjunction would work. And we know that not all twins really enjoy each other's company. Anyway, but I have really good friends the twins who don't talk to each other. The sextile represents the loving union. So there's a way that loving union, people seeking friendship would look at each other, right? There's that recognition of, you're somebody I really relate to. Oh, you are too. Oh my God, we need to hang out. Oh my God, yes, we do, right? That's the sextile connection. The trine can take it even further. It's, you know what, I really believe in you and I'm going to put up the money for that. I'm going to be the angel investor for that invention. That's the trine, the perfect friendship. So it advances, it does something to advance you, to advance the other planet. And it creates an ease. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Apologies to you and the rest. I have to make other plans and head on out. So I'll see you all next week, and enjoyed this very much. Thank you, Antoine.
Thank you so much, Claire France. Thank you for taking over for me. I appreciate it so much. I'm so glad you were here. And we're only going to do about maybe 15 minutes more anyway. We're going to kind of get to it. So we're close to the end. All right. Great.
I'll catch on the recording.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. And look at what they say, like two people who are equal in nature. So it's not talking about the quality, even though it's called the aspect of friendship, it's really saying two people are equal. They can do the same things. They can, if they needed to compete, they would be at the same level. If they wanted to collaborate, they would be able to advance each other. So think of two really great musicians coming together. That would help that. Then the square, like two who are seeking, so we're talking about the glance, right? Like two who are seeking rulership, each for himself. And so that glance is, how do you look at a person who is your rival in the office, right? You're both up for that same promotion. You know, there might be a lot of, oh hey, how are you doing? Yeah, great. Yeah, but underneath it's like, oh, that fucker, I'm gonna get that job. He better not. He doesn't do as much work as me. He's just in here because he's the boss's son. You know, that kind of glance, which is a sizing up that tends to happen under the square. And then the opposition, like two people battling each other strongly, then we don't need to really go very much further. So I do want you to take into account what it says about the opposition, which I think is really important. Obstruction and aversion, a denial, an attempt to hold off at a distance. Another thing I might say about the opposition is there is an on again, off again. It can be, oh, now I have it, now I don't. Here it is. Off it went again. Oh, wait, there it is. Oh, no, it's gone. So it can be that kind of a seesawing kind of expression, like two people battling each other strongly. Okay, this is kind of the end, because this leads us to these three things to just be thinking about when you're thinking about aspects. One, the aspects between planets link the natures of each planet to each other and link the houses they occupy and rule by sign. Okay, they occupy and rule by sign, especially that they rule by sign. And I'll put up a chart in a minute so that we can kind of look at something. Aspects to the ruler of the ascendant represent specific karma on your life path and physical person. Now, the ascendant represents your body. It's called Vita. It's called the house of life. So it's your body, it's your life, it's your physical health, it's your physical appearance, but it's your inherent inclination and talents. And so anything that's happening to the ruler of the ascendant is happening to you in a very personal way. Is happening to you on a very personal level. It should be very recognizable. And so it's something to be especially looking at. So what I think I'd like you to do here, we're going to finish this, and then the last exercise I do, I'll give you in a second. Aspects to the ruler of the ascendant represent specific karma on your life path and physical person. Noting the links between the houses also reveals the elements of the chart that are not specifically about you. So for instance, you're going to have planets in your chart who are aspecting each other. You might even have one that's applying. Remember, applying aspects are more important. I'm still standing by that until it gets, until I find proof that it's the otherwise, because it certainly is the case in horarian election. So there's some element of it that is the case in natal. On a personal level, I don't think it matters if it's separating or if it's applying. On a delineation and prediction level of what's going to happen, I do, and I want to know exactly what is going on. So, what I want you to do, first of all, is I want you to put into the chat who is the ruler of your ascendant. So the ascendant is the sign on the cusp of the first house, right? So everybody should know it's one of your big three. And then what I want to know is who is the ruler of the ascendant. So who is the ruler of the sign on the big three of the ascendant? If you've got Cancer rising like a lily, then Moon is the ruler of your ascendant. If you've got Leo rising, the Sun is the ruler. If you've got Virgo rising, Mercury is the ruler, et cetera, et cetera. Because what you're going to do, so you're going to let me know that, and then what you're going to do is you're going to see if there are any aspects to the ascendant. Is the ascendant applying to anybody? Is any planet applying to the ascendant? And so that's how we'll finish off today. So go ahead and see if you can give me any information about that. And I'll find a chart in the meanwhile to look at. 1 second. Oh, that's right, I can't minimize. Oh. What is it called? What's the name of it? It's called Solar Fire. The ascendant ruler, not the ascendant itself. That's correct. Venus ascendant at 0 degrees. All right. Okay, I'm going to show. Those are gurus. Royalty. All right, where is she? What we got going on here? All right, ascendant ruler trying the moon. What is the ascendant ruler? I just want to know what the planet is. I want to know the planet and then what's aspecting. Venus, okay, I have separating aspects of the ruler of the ascendant. But good, but just list them all out. Go ahead and list them on out. 5 Taurus, Venus square, 1 Cancer, Mars. Okay, so that's a separating aspect. That's what I want. That's what I want. Ascendant trine, but the ruler is in opposition to the same. What? I don't understand that question, sweetie. What if the ascendant trine, but the ruler is in opposition to the same planets? The ascendant trine what? The ascendant can't trine anything. Ascendant versus ascendant ruler. Ascendant ruler. We're looking for the planet who rules the sign on the ascendant. Sophia, I don't understand that question. We're looking for the planet who rules the sign on the ascendant. If it's in the opposite of that sign, then that's fine. But that's what we're looking for. Anybody else? 25 Venus and Leo. Leo, okay, Venus and Leo. Trine Moon and Aries at 29. Okay, another separating aspect. Okay, thank you. Okay, you kind of getting what? Virgo, 11 Virgo, Venus, trine 8 Saturn, Capricorn, another separating aspect. Okay, 10 Aries, Venus, trine Leo, Mars, and opposing 5. So more separating aspects. Okay, so almost everybody here has separating aspects from the ruler of the ascendant, and a lot of Venus chart rulers in this. I guess I am going to have to do a Venus in the 7th house thing so all you Venus people can understand what's going on with my love life. All right, so good. Okay. My moon is conjunct my sun. Is the moon your chart ruler, Crystal? I don't know what the importance of your moon conjuncting your sun is, unless one of them is the chart ruler. Right? And do you know how to understand what your chart ruler is? The chart ruler is the planet who rules the sign on the ascendant. Okay, applying 10 moon conjunct Venus and Virgo. Okay, yes, we've got an applying one. Venus Capricorn, sextile 11 Mercury. Oh, so how many? Okay, Amanda, how many minutes? Okay, how many minutes? If Venus is at 11 Capricorn, is she at 11 and 25 minutes? Is Mercury at fewer minutes or more minutes? This will decide whether or not this partile aspect, we just learned that word, partile, whether this partile aspect is going to be applying or separating, right? It could be separating, it could be 1 minute apart on either direction, right? So, all right, so what we're gonna do from here is, what I want you to do is I want you to, just using, we already know the ruler of the ascendant. So for instance, in Becca's chart, she said she's got a moon in Virgo conjuncting Venus in Virgo. What I want you to do is, the planet that is not the ruler of the ascendant, tell me what house or houses it represents. So Becca is going to look at the houses where Libra and Taurus are on the cusp. Amanda is going to, if Venus is the chart ruler for Amanda, then she's going to look at the cusps where Gemini and Virgo are on the cusp. Makes sense, right? So we already know that the ruler of the first house is whatever planet you just told me. So now we're looking, for instance, with Jamie Ryder. Jamie has the 5 Taurus Venus. So what houses have Aries and Scorpio on their cusp, because your Venus is squaring Mars. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Just using classic 7, that's right, not the outer planets or nodes. Right, and so the nodes can't rule signs, and neither can really, in my opinion, the outer planets. They do not rule signs. Right, so we're only looking to those. Placid doesn't matter. Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Placidus or whole sign, I don't care. Whatever it is you use. And you know what? As I've said, I've got some people who have never been with me before, and as I've said before, get into the habit of using both, right? I think there's definitely a lot of important information. Matter of fact, Lily and I had our class on Thursday, and she was asking me about cusps, et cetera, because she's never used anything but whole sign. And sure enough, I read for her using the cusps, and it was all pretty accurate. So just don't think it's just one or the other, and don't go with what resonates. Venus 11 degrees 14 minutes, sextile Mercury 11 degrees. Okay, it's a separating aspect, because Mercury is the faster planet. Is separating, but retrograde, could it then apply? No, it cannot. No, it cannot, because it's not going forward. It's not going towards. Although it can retrograde a planet that's. Let me give you an example. The moon is at, the moon can't retrograde. Mercury is at 12 degrees of Aries. It's about to trine Jupiter at 14 degrees of Gemini, or of 14 degrees of Sagittarius. But it's going retrograde. It goes retrograde. And behind Mercury is Venus at 8 degrees. Mercury will retrograde and apply to that planet. Okay, so we're getting into other designations that there's stuff that actually I want to teach you all, but it's getting a little bit more advanced about planetary kind of configurations. Chart ruler Venus is square Mars in Cancer, Aries equals 6th house, Scorpio is the first. Oh, remember, we're looking for the planet that rules the first house. So now you're going to have to do it the other way. If indeed Scorpio is the first house, then you need to be telling me what houses Venus rules. Okay, first of all, let me just show a chart. I think that'll be a little easier, so that you all get an idea what I'm talking about. We're using Queen Elizabeth here for a second. Okay, this is the ascendant. This is the first house. We're looking for the planet that rules this sign. Capricorn is on the cusp of the first. The planet that rules that is Saturn. Saturn is the ruler of the first. That was what I was asking you all to do, is find the ruler of the first house and then find who's aspecting that planet. Then what I wanted to know is, what houses does that other planet rule, right? We know that in this chart, Capricorn rises, which makes Saturn the ruler of the ascendant. However, Saturn is being applied to by Jupiter and Mars. What houses do those two planets rule? That's what I'm looking for. What happened? Okay. They're the same thing, Crystal. The chart ruler and the first house ruler are the same planet. Sorry. So that's where I made a mistake, is that I didn't make it clear that the ruler of the first house or the ascendant ruler and the chart ruler are all the same thing. Okay, they're all the same thing. Chart ruler, first house ruler, ascendant ruler, they're all the same. All right. So whenever anybody uses the term chart ruler, they're talking about the ruler of the ascendant. Now, there are other designations that are like compound designations where you get what's called the total ruler of the chart or whatever, something like that. But let's see, my third house in Cancer for me, Venus, my chart ruler aspects the moon, which is applying to it. Okay, wait, Becca. Venus is the ruler of the ascendant. Does that mean Taurus is ruling the ascendant and the moon is in Cancer? Or rather, the moon rules the third house, which is Cancer? Perfect. First house and sixth house. Amanda, that sounds more like you're talking about the planet that rules the first house. I'm looking for the planet that the first house ruler is actually. See, this is why she was right. We need to kind of go over this again with charts. This is so important. So the first house ruler, yes, she does. That's the other reason I put this chart up. My first house is Cancer. Shit. Damn it. Okay. Do we do this only if it's applying? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if applying or separating right now. Okay, my first house is Cancer. The moon rules my first house. Yes, it does. My moon is in Virgo, fifth house, but it is aspecting Venus, which is my chart. The chart ruler is the planet who rules the ascendant, Becca. The planet who rules the ascendant. Whatever sign is on the ascendant, the planet who rules that sign is the chart ruler. So if it's Taurus rising, which I think it is for you, first house ruler is Venus. My Venus is in the seventh in Taurus. Taurus is the first house. Venus and Libra is sixth house. Okay, so okay, good. Everybody now is giving me what their ascendant ruler is, chart ruler, ascendant ruler, first house ruler. Those are all the same planet, and you're all telling me that. What I want to know is what houses does the planet that is aspecting that planet rule? Venus ascendant ruler rules first and sixth, opposes Jupiter, rules 11th and 8th. This is what I want. Venus, so I'm going to read what I have. Venus, the ascendant ruler, which rules the first and the sixth, opposes Jupiter, which rules the 11th and the 8th, and trines Mars, which rules the 4th and the 12th. Okay, and this, wouldn't Mars rule this? Doesn't Mars rule the 7th? In this chart, Anna, Mars would rule the 7th. Yeah, it should be the 7th and the 12th. Yes, 7th and the 12th. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. So what we know, using Anna's example as what we're looking to do, what we know then, what's connected to her personally is 7th house. So that's relationship stuff, and it's by trine to Mars. So Mars is, what do we say? Venus and Mars are harmony versus discord. So even with a trine, we know there's still going to be some harmony versus discord type issues. Mars rules the 12th. There is an issue with isolation of some sort too, and maybe not being able to take action because of isolation, because Mars is action and Mars rules the 12th, and Mars is trining the ruler of the ascendant. Also, Jupiter, the opposition. So there's an issue between Venus and Jupiter and friends. And I call Venus, Jupiter too much of a good thing. So there might be friends who tempt the person towards excess or doing too much. That's what I'm talking about. Venus is the ascendant ruler, rules the first and sixth. That's right. It's conjunct the moon, which rules the third. This is exactly right. And trine Saturn, which rules the 9th and 10th. So those are the houses that are connected to you. The third house, that means there might be a sister or a good friend who's like a sister who you're very connected to. Or you may have a mother who is like a sister or like a best friend. But with Moon and Venus together, that's both female planets together, and the ruler of the third, there may be sisters. So that's what I'm talking about. Trines Saturn in the 9th and 10th. So there's some kind of sobriety around religion or higher education. And then also, what is it I'm going to be doing for a living? So that's what I'm talking about. So when you're looking at the ruler of your ascendant, Venus, Aries is in reception to Mars. So Venus is the ruler of the, is in reception to Mars and Jupiter, Libra, and reception to Venus. What? Venus is in Aries in reception to Mars. Oh, right, because trining Mars, okay, and Jupiter in Libra, right? And we talked about this oppositions with reception. You know, let's stop here. I think this is the place. This is the place to stop. I think it looks like we need to do it. I'm gonna actually, what I'm gonna do is next week we're gonna look just at 7th house and Venus, and then we're gonna come back to this. All right, this is obviously something that we need to kind of keep revisiting. So I'm gonna give you 5 minutes now, if you need them, to ask me more questions, and then we'll finish it up all together. Okay, so take your time and ask your questions now. No? Okay. All right then, everyone. So you can follow me on Instagram, Garthastro. You can follow me on Twitter. Garthastro is the applying versus separating different when Mars is retrograde. Did you hear the answer that I gave Anna about retrograde? Right. So if a planet is retrograding, it would apply to the planet behind it. Right. So it would no longer apply to the planet in front of it. It would apply to the planet behind it. Right. So as it turns, it's not applying. So let's say Mercury is applying to Jupiter. And then goes retrograde, and Venus is behind it. Mercury's at 12 and Venus is at 8. It's now applying to Venus. Let's see. Looking forward to next week. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mariah. Thank you all so much for coming. Moon conjunct my sun in Cancer, if I understand correctly. Does this influence Leo as well, even though they're both in Cancer? No, it doesn't. Remember, signs are emanations of, oh, that's right, you've never been with me before. Signs are emanations of planets. So it doesn't affect Leo. It's not, it would only affect Leo. Never mind, I'm not even gonna say it, but no, it does not. How can we watch this back, please? So I will be sending, I'll be sending a link. Actually, you're now on an email list, and you'll be getting my announcement for the next, you'll be getting into the announcement for next week, and then with that announcement, I usually also include the link to this this video. Okay, thank you all so much, everybody. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to stop it there, and all you new people that joined me today, thank you so much. I'm so glad to see you and welcome. I'm really, really happy to have you. Continue to join. I'm doing 16 weeks of free workshops. We're in week 7, so we've got quite a few more. So please feel free to join me every Sunday at noon. Okay, thanks so much.